Clubfesters, my name is Jeremiah Johnson. I'm here with Niels Duinker as part of Clubfest. He is a professional entertainer. He's performed around the world in all 7 continents, which I'm going to have to ask you about that because there's one continent
Cool.
that doesn't seem like it has much of a venue for performing.
Yep.
He's got a long list of awards and recognitions, longer than I'm even going to get into here, but we'll talk about some of that as well. A high level of technical skill. There's videos out there of you juggling 7 clubs, and so that's of great interest to many club jugglers out there. In addition, there's a ton of great instructional videos that are geared toward beginners that he's got on his YouTube channel. It's a great resource, and we'll be playing a lot of those through the Club Fest, the channels. And he was just on a few other podcasts recently as well, a Dale Jones podcast, if you want to learn some more about him. And he's been on Drop Everything with Daniel Holzman, a relationship I think we share. And he's also donating some bottle clubs in the raffle, which are a really unique prop and imitates basically wine bottles. And is an awesome donation, so thank you for that. So you can win that by entering the giveaway that we've got here as part of Clubfest. So let's dive right into it, Niels. This is some of the first conversations you and I have had, even though we work in a real similar industry, but we grew up on opposite sides of the world. From the Netherlands, if I recall.
Yeah, that's right. So for everybody that doesn't know me, I grew up in the Netherlands. I'm now in the United States. I'm now, this year I'm opening my own show here in Ohio. So I'm already in Ohio itself. So I'm one of the cabins that's connected to the theater. And so I started out, I did mechanical engineering in college and I was practicing all the time. I was doing like smaller corporate events, then bigger corporate events in the Netherlands. Then I got to perform in a theme park in Japan with a 20-minute show. And that 20-minute show got me onto cruise ships as a farewell act at the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line. They only needed a 23-minute show there. Then I expanded my show. Then I ended up doing like 45 minutes on the cruise ships, headlining that. Then after 8 years on cruise ships, I got a little tired of being at sea all the time. And then this amazing opportunity opened up of me performing at the Comedy Bar and Theater in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. And that's Pigeon Forge is kind of similar to Branson in Missouri. It's like a family-friendly Las Vegas. And they have a variety show there. It goes 7 days a week. It's an 800-seat theater, and I did like over 1,600 shows there in the last 3 years.
Wow!
So after 3 years there, then the owners of this theater where I'm gonna open my own show. So instead of being an act in the show, I'm also gonna do just headline the show. So I'm very excited about that. Just put it together like a full juggling show in a tourist town because magicians have done it. Jugglers not that often. So I'm very excited. So now, getting bigger props built. After this interview, I'm going to go back to the theater and just program my lights and all that stuff. So that's this year for me. And this is kind of like my quick background. But right now I'm in Ohio, here in the United States.
Yeah. So I do have a couple quick questions for you on some of that because I know you just blasted through like 15 years there, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, like 20 years. So it's like even it's funny because so that was my big vision, my big goal. It's like, okay, before Siegfried and Roy, the magicians, come to Las Vegas, like the magic show wasn't really like a thing. Now there's so many. I was like, would it be cool with juggling if that would be possible? So I know Rostelli did 40 minutes and people just bought tickets to see Rostelli. I was like, would it be so cool if people just buy a ticket for a juggling show that they just want to see juggling that badly? And so it's like, okay, I feel it's possible. It's going to be a big goal because like, that's with juggling too. Like there's so many different techniques and every trick takes practice to maintain your skill. If you drop too often, people don't know. So that's with, magic is difficult too, but you can just, like have a storyline and talk and fill a 5-minute act and you only have to remember 1 or 2 magic moves. Juggling, it's more difficult than that. But like right now it's all happening and very excited. So like it was kind of funny because when I was a kid, there was a juggling catalog, just a paper juggling catalog, and I just wanted to own every prop in the catalog. So very often I just had to, just save up money and do gigs and all stuff. My parents didn't buy me that stuff. They enabled me to do shows. They helped me if I wanted to do a show. But like I had to earn that money myself. And so I ended up with a devil stick and a contact juggling ball and juggling clubs. And and all the stuff, which comes in handy now to fill like all the time with just juggling.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about what it was like for you when you were first getting started juggling. Were your parents, like, did you get introduced by your parents, or you saw a friend do it or
No,
something?
like, so you had like the annual Busker, annual street performing festival in Rotterdam. And like
Ah,
for street performers from all over the world went there. And just like it was always the last weekend before school started back up. So my dad always took me to see the street performance. So I was very intrigued by that. I really liked it. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like they come with just a suitcase and a couple of juggling balls and a couple of juggling clubs. And 20 minutes later, they had like a big crowd, entertained them, and got money for it. It's like, that's so cool. So, and you only get paid if you really offer value to it, if you really entertain the people. It's like, that's so cool. They really have to be good, and they really have to be spot on all the time. Otherwise, you don't get paid. It's like, so that was one thing. And then I saw like the Circus Festival of Monte Carlo and the Circus Festival in Paris. They were broadcasted on TV those years, every year as well. So I really like to see the jugglers. So I remember when I was 8 years old, I saw a juggling act, and then I went up to my room, started practicing. But I didn't know how. There was like, YouTube, and there was no instruction that easy accessible. So it took me only until I was like 12 to figure out that I could go to the library, get a book on juggling. And then I found it out. And then a couple of my people in my circle were juggling. So I found out that one of my aunts could juggle. And then my best friend, his dad was like a hobby juggler. So it kind of clicked. And then I kind of understood the basics. And then I liked it so much. Then I read in a newspaper article that there was a kid circus in Rotterdam. And then they had like an open circus workshop, like during a festival downtown Rotterdam. So I went there with my mom, and then I just kept calling this circus if there was already a spot available, if I could just join the weekly circus club. And they didn't have a spot, but I was so persistent that at one point they go like, okay, yeah, you can join. Like we'll just create a spot. Like it's not gonna harm us if the group has 21 kids instead of 20. So then I could join, and then I got to know like other kids that were, so like on Saturday, me and my buddy that I met at a kid circus who went like street performing downtown Rotterdam. So it was like 14, 15, 16.
mm-hmm.
And we did that. And then sometimes like we got asked for, or I got asked for like local festivals or like a party, somebody's party. And then, so it just grew. So like when I finished college by the age of 23, I already had like 10 years of performance experience, and it was good enough to get onto Royal Caribbean Cruise Line immediately the week after I finished college. Immediately the week after that, I was on Royal Caribbean Cruise Line.
Wow. Yeah. So you went straight from college straight into full-time performing. Did you know that was what you were going to do after college, or were you going to college like not really sure about the performance thing?
No, it was funny because I was 15. I did with my buddy. We did like a gig, and then on the way back, it was like one of the first professional gigs that we did. And it's like, oh, this would be so cool if we could do this professionally, because the guy that was running the juggling club in Rotterdam, so you had the kid circus and you had the juggling club. And then the guy that ran the juggling club, he was like always so happy. Bouke is his name. And he was always so happy. I was like, okay, we can be this guy working in the office, or we can be like Bouke. And it's like, oh yeah, Bouke is good. But like, if we practice, we can be even better. So it's like,
mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, if we just practice and be as good as Bouke, we probably can make a living and be happy. That's what he doing. But if we practice even more, we probably can be, like make even more money, and just, and just do it. So so I was 15. We decided, like, my friend is not doing juggling, but I'm still juggling professionally. So I kept my promise. And so I already knew before I went to college that I wanted to do it. But my parents was like, yeah, when I was 18, they said like, you can do it, but then you're on your own. If you go to college, we support you for 4 more years. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of good, not that good. So if I go to college, it sounds interesting. It's mechanical engineering, so it sounds fun. So I was not against it. So, but then I'll give me 4 more years that to hone my act and just be 4 more years more experience in professional juggling. So then I should be okay. So that's what I did. And I remember my mom was got upset a couple of times. One time I was joking. It's like right for the exams. It's like, oh, why are you juggling? You shouldn't be studying for mechanical engineering exam. I was like, no. Well, I was like, yeah. I was like, but I have to think about my future first. And then she got so pissed. So, but I was like, yeah, see, I'm juggling professionally. I wasn't lying. I need to get this trick down. Otherwise,
yeah, that's
my
great.
future. That's what I want to do.
I I too went to college, but my story is quite a bit different. Like I discovered juggling and then performing separately much later, and started juggling without any interest in performing at all. It wasn't until
Yeah.
quite a bit later. So that's cool that you were inspired for both of those
Well,
things at the same
it's
time.
actually funny because the performing only came second. I was like, I like juggling so much, but how can I juggle all the time? And I was like, okay, probably have to be a professional juggler to juggle all the time, because then you still need to make money somehow.
Yeah.
And if I'm in the office all the time, then all that money, all the time is kind of like wasted to, work for that job. I mean, it could be interesting too. A lot of people have an interesting job, but like I was just a teenager, so I didn't realize. I was like, this is all what I do. So the other time, the office time would be distraction. So I was like, if I'm a professional juggler, I can just juggle all the time, which not knowing that you also have to spend time on promotion and all that kind of stuff. That's almost the juggling part. It's almost like the smallest part of your juggling job. But so that's what I did. So I became a professional juggler.
Well, we might have been one of the last generations of jugglers that doesn't learn from the internet.
Yeah. It's actually funny because the way I learned, it's actually like so in this kid circus. So I said, what's your library? Like, are there more books on juggling? Do you have more videotapes? And they go, well, we don't. And I was like, okay, that's pretty bad. Like, you should have some stuff. So and the owner was real cool, and he was like, okay, I will give you like a little budget, and you can just buy juggling books, and it goes into our library. So I remember buying the videotape from Anthony Gatto and the videotape from Jason Garfield. And those were the only two that I watched for 4 years straight. I just watched those things every day. And then I was like, but it's kind of cool, because then the only thing that you see is the technical level of Anthony Gatto. So then if you juggle 5 clubs, you think, I'm not that good. Like, he's doing 7. But then you go out to the real world and go, who else is juggling 5 clubs at that time? So then so it's good. It's only so like the best. And
so you got a really strong technical influence early on between Gatto and Garfield.
Actually it was pretty bad in the beginning, because Jason Garfield's persona is like is so standoffish. Like he plays that character, but like as a teenager, that's all you see. And then that's your idol, so that's what you look up to and try to intimidate, and that's how you then try to do a show. It's not the best role model. So then later you change it, and then so in the beginning, I was just like focused on doing technical juggling. Like I knew so the shows were just like, okay, I want all the props in the juggling catalog, and it's much more fun to do juggling shows than get a side job like delivering newspapers or something.
Yeah.
So those were the shows that I did. Later on I tweaked that one, but in the beginning I was like more just focused on technique, which is actually good, because like now I have a good technical base. So now all the other comedy stuff, I know that I don't have to worry about the technique, and then I can just add all the jokes. If I would have done a performing right away and not so much time on technique, then my show would have been maybe even more limiting, because now like for me opening the show here, it's over an hour of juggling. I can do contact juggling, I can do hats, I can do club juggling. And it's also good. Like I feel like every bit in my show that I do, pretty much everything is good enough to do on its own as well. So that was the bar that I set. So it's like, okay, if I want to do just this one act, could I do it in a circus too, or could I do it in a variety show in Germany? Is it good enough? And if that's good enough, because like especially like when you do cruise ships or something, you have to break up your material on the cruise ship. So sometimes they say, okay, we only have 15 minutes. That's an exception, but sometimes they say we only have 15 minutes. Well, those 15 minutes need to be strong, because that's almost like the promotion to like your longer show if you're on for the same passengers later on in the cruise again. So it's actually very good for me that I decided every routine has to be strong enough to stand on its own. And then if you just have strong routines, then most likely you're going to end up with a pretty strong show.
Right. And so I knew you did a lot of cruise ships, but I didn't realize you started doing them so early and so many for so many years. I've heard a lot of other cruise ship entertainers talk about how it can be fairly challenging to work on your show on the cruise ship, just for lack of space or time. And so how did you cope with that? Did you feel like your show stagnated a little bit while you were doing so many cruise ships, or did you find a way of continuing?
The show was growing, but the juggling technique that was kind of stagnant. I know, like I did my record was like I did 35 catches with 7 clubs before joining the ships, but then it's a very tough practice area.
Yeah.
So it's not my 7 clubs didn't improve. I was still good enough if I want to put like a 7 clubs for one cycle or for a flash into my egg. That's not a problem. If I go practice, I can probably qualify like every time, every day if I want to, but like that didn't get so much better. But then also like audiences, if you look at it as a business perspective, like the practice time, this time you start rehearsing and maintaining those high numbers compared to the entertainment value you get out of it, you have to go, okay, it doesn't really make that much sense. But as a juggler, it's still, that's what you want to do. So it's cool. And that's still, you know, what makes me happy. So there's something why I still keep up with that kind of stuff as well, like the higher numbers. But like, yeah, business sense, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And for the cruise ship, so yeah, the juggling technique, like it grew, but it didn't grow like in the numbers. Like 5 club back crosses would be tough because there's literally days, like it's in the middle of the night because then all the activities are done for the day. No more bingo, no more days, no more shows. So then you can go into the theater.
Right.
But then the stage, the computer that operates the stage lights, it's shut off. So then you turn on the house lights if you're lucky. Otherwise, sometimes it's almost like it's kind of already on saving mode, so it's kind of dark. So then when you juggle the clubs, you see like more like arrows instead of like see the club where it is. And then you have to stand in the aisle in the theater, which you basically only have this much space. So you have to turn on the side so you can go in. Sometimes like getting into the back crosses is most difficult because you have to juggle from the front. So then the chairs are there, and then you have to turn around and get them behind your back, and then you're okay because then you're in line with the aisle.
Yeah.
And then on still sometimes the cruise ship is moving up and down, and then it's kind of dark, and then you're there like 12:30 at night, and then at one point so that really tests your motivation if you want to. How bad do you want to keep that high technical level under those conditions?
Right. And so I've heard most people say that being on the ship and any slight movements didn't really affect their show much, but you perform with such a high technical level, things like 5 club back crosses or 7 clubs or anything. Have you ever noticed the movement of the ship actually affecting you mid-show?
No, yeah, not so much. It's more like actually the little things. Like for example, when you do your head juggling routine, you stand on one leg and then you throw the head from your head onto your foot.
Mm-hmm.
On those kind of things, like stuff that doesn't look that difficult. It's more impact on that one, and it's also subtle. If you do cigar boxes and you just overspin one and then you cannot catch it in between, and then people go like, dude, like you just juggle 7 balls.
Right.
Like, I can understand that you drop on that one, but now you have only one, and then they don't see the precision with the other props.
Right. And so you have a ton of variety in your show. And obviously we're talking about Club Fest here. So I got to ask you a few questions about clubs. Like how
Sure.
do you use clubs in your show? Do they play a specific role? Have you found it hard to get people to relate to the clubs? What is that like in your particular experience?
Right now, that was kind of sad too, because you practice all those really cool tricks with normal clubs, and then you take on the LED clubs, you put them in your show, and people love it. It's so, they go, oh, it's so pretty. They have like lights, and it's like you can do, even if you do 9 clubs, they're still gonna like the light clubs better. I mean, for me, like it's.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found a really good track that goes well with it, and then so then I go, oh, this is so demotivating because I practice all this time this real hard stuff that I want to show you, and then I have the easier stuff with the clubs, but that's what I get the best reaction with. So then for the shows, I just go with the LED clubs because that's what the people like the most. So if that's what I like the most, then that's what sells the best.
Yeah.
But like but like it's good with like even now, like here that I am performing in the evening show, and then I'm performing in my own show. So I will keep the LED lights for one show, and then I can do the regular club routine in another show.
Oh,
especially
nice.
if it's the same people, because we do cross promotion, so a lot of the audience are going to be the same. So and that's also with the clubs, like sometimes the tricks that you like doing the most, it's not always the tricks that the audience relates to the best. Like if you do splits with 4 clubs, like it's just pretty, people understand it. That's too with some club moves, it goes so quick and they're almost too much information in the trick. So the audience is not trained how to see it. They just look at shapes and patterns. So they recognize a circle or square, or they go, oh, that's pretty, and they understand it.
Yeah.
And then another thing with the clubs, and that messed me up for a little bit, is so for the cruise ships with the travel, I was using this Duvet clubs, like with the LED clubs that they have. They're pretty affordable. You pop in a battery.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, especially like at sea, if your battery went dead, you just pop in a new one. It's like, and you could repair them too. And with the temperature differences in the airplane, like it was not so bad on the batteries, because it was, if you want to check them in, you cannot put in your hand luggage, and so you have to put them in your check-in luggage. But then if you do long flights, then sometimes they get too cold, so it wasn't that good for the batteries.
Interesting. I didn't know that little fact. Huh.
Yeah. So I mean, they got better.
Talk to a few people about that.
Yeah, they got better and better now. And the same like now with traveling with your LED clubs. So it's funny because they ask, like, is there any electronics in your check-in luggage? And you go, well, the light clubs, yeah, there's electronics. But then if you put them in your hand luggage, they're club shaped. So they go, you cannot have weapons or clubs in your hand luggage. So it's like, you know, either way, like I know it's not going to be bad if I put it in my check-in luggage. But like, yeah, it's like, are the electronics? Yeah, come on, like the one little light, it's not like, so either way, like you're caught in this too, but I do need them to bring them with me for a show. So it's like,
yeah,
I have no option.
Me too. The clubs are a huge part of my show, and I relate in that the lights were a big part of what helped make clubs relatable to people on some level.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's one of the endless challenges of us jugglers in general, right? Is trying to figure out how to make people, or not make people, but help people relate to what we're doing.
Yeah.
And there's a few performers that I've seen who have really done amazing things with that, like helping the audience understand what it is that they're doing, and like guiding them along at the same time as impressing them. And do you have any techniques or anything that you can think of, performance techniques or maybe crafting or routine techniques that you follow to help with that?
Yeah, it's tough. It took me a long time to even grasp that concept as well. So I was on a cruise ship, and Neil Austin, a magician, he said, look at David Copperfield. He has all this big stuff. He's like, you still go to see a show at the end, you go like, this guy was amazing, not his tricks are amazing.
Right.
And that's why with a lot of jugglers, you go, your tricks are amazing. You never say, this guy was amazing. Only like headliners and people that really do it well and stick out. So it's like, you want your technique to be strong, but you want your persona on stage to be stronger.
Right.
So that people go like, okay, we love that guy, instead of like, okay, he did great juggling tricks.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love you, you can still do the great juggling tricks. So I think if they relate to you, to your stage persona, then because that works for me. Like, so they see that I'm super excited about what I'm doing, like juggling the clubs. So they care about juggling the clubs because they care about me and I care about that.
Right.
So like, because like the clubs by itself, like if you do associations, they go like, okay, bowling pins or this, or they don't look like pretty much anything they use in real life.
Right. The bowling pin is like one of the most common references. And even then, most people have never held a bowling pin. They've only ever knocked them down.
Yeah. I think one joke for a while in the show, I go, yeah, they call them bowling pins was probably because how often they're on the floor.
Yeah, right.
So I have a couple jokes like that. But I think it's mostly that when they see a juggler right now, they expect somebody to juggle balls and clubs.
Yeah.
So even if you don't, through the clubs, you don't have to make that connect, because like, okay, it's a juggler and this is just what a juggler does.
Yeah. There's an interesting conversation I heard recently. Actually, some magicians were talking about using a ball, for magic tricks and stuff, but it related directly to juggling. And they talked about how the ball is sort of a universal symbol for games that we all play growing up, simply catch. Yeah. So everybody has an association with juggling on that level, right? Throwing a ball up and catching it, right? Everybody has done that at some level in their childhood.
Yeah, so through that way, you can make it relatable as well.
Right. Whereas a club is such a different shape that almost nobody flips and catches a stick even. And that's like as close as you
Yeah,
get
very,
to the way to
very
build it.
few.
Yeah. And so that is one of the interesting challenges. Um,
Well, that's why I like the wine bottles too. That was one like in 2004, I went to the World Juggling Federation convention, and then Tommy Curtin was there as well, and he had so the champagne bottles with
mhm.
him. So that stuck in my brain. I was like, that's brilliant. So I tried to buy them secondhand, but like they're never available. And then I started working in Tennessee, and then Tommy Curtin lives in Tennessee too. So he came to the show a couple times. We started hanging out. Sometimes on my day off, I went to visit him, and and then Cindy Marvel had the molds. So like when she invited me to perform at the Boulder Circus Festival, she showed me like, okay, here I got all the Stu Reynolds molds, and they're still from Carter Brown, and they're here, and he doesn't care about them anymore, so they're still here in my apartment. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, so I just purchased the molds from her, and then I asked Tommy Curtin for permission to get a batch made.
Mm-hmm.
So because I thought it was brilliant. Like everybody relates to wine bottles. It's like if you're a professional juggler, like where do you perform at parties or weddings or openings? Like you're saying, like if you opening like very often champagne bottle, or like if they do a ship, like inauguration ship, they throw champagne bottles. Like so, it's a festive thing.
Yeah.
And since when we're performing after this virus thing is over, performing at parties, at gatherings. So it's okay. The champagne shape has a connection with happy parties where we're performing usually. So that's an easier tie-in. So that's that way. I just changed the shape of the club, to match it, to make it more relatable that way.
Yeah, it's a great one. And so I'm actually looking at your website page with the Juggling Bottle Club. Do you make these yourself, or do you have somebody else that makes them for you?
So that's why finally one time that my mechanical engineering came in handy. So I was like, I should figure this out. So I was like, and then I remembered some classes, and it's like, okay. So I went to a plastic factory. So I got a mold made, and that's pretty expensive. Yeah. And then so basically got the mold. So if you had those those chocolate Easter bunnies that you can buy in the supermarket, so like it's the same method, like the juggling club. So just they pour like coral, like plastic inside the mold, then they heat it up, they turn it around for like an hour, so it was cool because the plastic factory owner, he was very excited that he could finally make something different. It was like then like $30,000 containers and stuff like that. I was like,
right.
I was like, dude, like, do you realize this is not going to sell as much as your gas containers and stuff? It's like, and the mold, like, I'm not willing to pay like $100,000 for a mold or something. It's like, I said, no, like, but this is stuff that we always do, and that's not exciting. This is fun.
Right,
like,
right.
Okay.
So much better than making Tupperware.
Yeah, these are like big containers for oil and gas and all that stuff. And like, it was this one unit was like so expensive. It was like, but then he was excited, and then it just happened to be that that one of his employees was a juggler too.
Mm-hmm.
So that guy was super excited to see like the juggling clubs like being made and stuff. So they did like really good. They took really good care of it. I told them like, look, I want the weight exactly to be the same. So like, and that's too, when they order them, like I just put them on a scale, and it's like, so like it's all in 1 or 2 grams the same weight. And he just made them super precise, and then he made like sure that the mold was like super smooth, basically, because then it looks like glass. So like the way they turned out, like Jeff McBride in Las Vegas, he's a magician. He likes juggling, but he just bought them because he thought they were so pretty.
Awesome.
So that's cool. And then with the label, so Daniel Holtzman, he helped me with the label, with the design. So now it's made at Cascade Vineyards, and the master winer is Tommy Curtin and Stu Reynolds. So we put all these tributes into the label as well. And so, and actually they juggle pretty much like the same, like juggling clubs, like the center of mass, the way they flip, it's almost the same, which is I'm very happy with, because of course the shape is a lot different, and it's a one-piece club, but like the way they juggle, it's real nice. And so you juggle it for 3 minutes, and you don't feel the difference anymore.
Yeah, and so it is a one-piece club. It's a unibody, no wood dowel or anything down the middle.
Correct, because now I go, okay, because for this one the shape had to be the same, it had to look good. So it was, yes, I wanted to juggle well, but also it has to look good. So normal juggling clubs, since people have no reference to it, it doesn't really matter if the handle is a little bit longer or shorter because there's nothing to compare it to. But like if the bottle club doesn't look like a bottle,
number one
yeah.
requirement. Bottle club has to look like a bottle. Well, so one last question about your club performances. Do you tend to do club routines to music in particular, or do you ever do like a talking style routine where you talk people through the tricks you're doing?
It's actually funny since I'm in Europe, so you have all these variety theaters in Germany and stuff. So and the circus, and so somehow in my brain it was like when I juggle, it has to be to the music, and then I do the comedy in between.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't have routines where I juggle and talk over it. Somehow that seems like more American style. So for the style I found and especially with like the theme park in Japan and then working the cruise ships also in Europe, like if you could just work visually, that was good for the market for me. Yeah, so like my juggling club routine is always to the music, and then I do usually 3, 5, and then 7.
Right. And that reminded me, actually, since we were talking about the difference between the United States and Europe, it's generally perceived that Europe tends to be more, they tend to be a little more encouraging in exploring arts like juggling, but I wonder how it is in terms of performance. Like you here, obviously, are here performing in the United States for an extended period of time, and have done a lot of your work here in the U.S. Is there? Did you find it harder? Did you find it harder to work in the United States or in Europe? Like, what kind of difference is there?
I think you just have to be good. It's like have a show that people actually want to see.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's too like. Some shows that are like incredible, but then if it's more artistic, then it's a smaller market. It could be a better show, but it's a smaller market. So for me, like I worked in a theater restaurant where there was like unlimited drinks, so you had to some people just got a little drunk, so you had to be like really good to keep their attention, especially with juggling.
Right.
So like, okay, if I can be that strong, so I can keep the attention on the cruise ships, they don't come to see my show. They just want a cruise vacation. Right. They got a drink and then they see the show, whatever it is. But if you're really, really good, you can keep their attention. And it's cruise ships is American venues. So like, I think that's how I ended up here because it's a mix. It's like it's European enough that it has some kind of uniqueness to it if I work here, but then it's American enough that the American market likes it. So I think that's how I ended up here. Plus, I thought like usually in the US, the juggler does like a longer. You do like a 30 or 45-minute show, like when you do fairs or colleges or those kind of markets.
Yeah.
And in Europe, it's usually shorter. Or like the markets I found there, like it's more general, you do strolling at festivals or something. And if you do a street show, it's about maybe 20 minutes. So like if you could do longer, you can do that at a festival a bit longer. But if you do a theater restaurant, it's like, or like a variety show, it's like 7 to 10. So usually it's more like an act. To work here, you need more like a show. And I think multiple acts become a show. So if you can be the entire show, maybe that's because the US is so big. So it's to have everybody travel to one spot. That's going to be more expensive for a one-nighter.
Right.
So then for college, they just fly in 1 or 2 people. And then it's affordable because there's only one-time travel expenses. The guy can do an hour of entertainment. But then as a juggler, you end up with more material, more stuff to do, but then also your compensation for one gig that way potentially could be a lot higher.
Yeah. Yeah. As a buyer, if you have to pay per act as opposed to per performer, that's significantly increases your overhead.
And in Europe, like a lot of places, it's smaller, public transportation is better. So then maybe that way too, that's sustained a little bit longer. That model that people go, okay, you just come, everybody drives like an hour and it's okay.
Right. I saw on your website too that fairs is one of the markets that you have on there anyway.
Yeah.
Do you perform at a lot of fairs? Fairs is the thing I've been running for the last few years now. So I'm just curious.
Not that many. Like I have a fair agent and so he is pretty good. He's really good in that market, but like just like I now really like this the Comedy Barn, it was like a theater where I could work 6 days a week. Now here I could do shows all the time. So I do fairs because the money is really good and it's nice sometimes to get away from the resident show, just do something else. But I don't do as many as that guy probably can get me.
Right. Yeah, it is exhausting to do a lot of fairs because you're traveling so much, and it's every week is in a different place practically.
It's good to as a almost like a paid vacation. If you same with cruise ships, if you're working all the time, then like on land, then a cruise ship is nice. If you do them all the time, it becomes work too.
Yeah. The variety is nice. Do you have a favorite type of venue? Is it what you're doing now, ideally?
Yeah, I think right now, like I'm creating that venue for myself. So the theater, like, so they don't know the potential that could be done with a juggling show.
Mm-hmm.
So it's right now, it's like I'm setting it up. So I just, like now I bought 4 new lights and we're just gonna mount them into the lighting rig. They have a really state-of-the-art theater, but like it's set up for music and stuff. So now I'm just making set up, so it's good for juggling.
Yeah, and that theater show gives you the ability to really just have the highest amount of freedom of creativity, I imagine, too.
Yes, and also I made so this theater, like there's only 2 owners or 3 owners, and they're in the building all the time. So as long as it's family friendly, clean, and profitable, I can do whatever I want. So that's awesome.
Right. So I got a few other questions here for you. I want to keep moving along. There's one that I kind of find funny because I've talked to various entertainers and everybody's kind of got a different thing. And oftentimes it's sort of almost a gimmick. And I'm referring to world records. Sometimes you'll talk to somebody who's just an amazing performer and it turns out that their world record is like catching the most raisins in their mouth or something like that.
Yep.
I know I've seen a few of the ones that you have, and they are not gimmicks. They are very technically difficult skills, but I only know 1 or 2 of them, the cup one in particular.
Yeah,
will you enlighten us? What got you your world records?
Actually, the first I got, that was longest duration of juggling blindfolded.
Nice.
So that was good. That was like back then, it was like 50 seconds or something. It's like I can break that. So I was working at a theme park in China, and I was like, oh, I really like this. Like, it's a great adventure. Like, the culture is so different. How can I come back? And the agent was like, well, if you have a world record, it would be an easier sell for me because, in the US, they like world records. In Asia, they're very competitive too in that sense. So like, okay, if you have a world record, then I can go, and people have reference because like people don't know what's a good juggler, what's not a good juggler, but they know like, oh, Guinness World Record holder sounds appealing.
Right, Guinness World Records holder, and how many TV shows have you been on? That's how the U.S. judges its jugglers.
So it's go like, okay, well, if that's what it takes to get into the door,
right? Then
okay, I will just look into it. So then I got that record, but the one I'm most happy with is like the most cups. It's cool. So I did 14 shaker cups.
14 shaker cups. So what is that? 7 in each hand, just like one.
7 in the air, and then we're like 12 in the air. So I hold the bottom 2. With Guinness counts, it still is 14. So that's good for me. So so I think that's because like I'm talking a lot with Albert Lucas. So he's teaching me like some training techniques that his dad taught him, and Anthony Gatto's dad taught Anthony. Like they're all like part of the same group. But yeah, he said like people always ask like, what's the most that you can juggle? So I feel like those are the purest world records. Like most clubs, most rings, and then maybe the longest. But sometimes that gets a little bogus too. I mean, if you can juggle 5 balls for an hour, thereafter it's just stamina and just like how strong are you. But like, I mean, I think the longest and especially the most, those are like I feel like the pure A records. And then at one point, Anthony got at a point too, like how far are we gonna pull? Like he juggled 5 balls with a green T-shirt. He juggled 5 balls the longest in a red T-shirt. Like so like So I did and then with the cups, another one with 3 cups, the most repetitions in a minute with the 3 cups, and blindfolded. And I had a behind the back juggling records. Yeah, it's like I've set like 8 world records now, but like.
Awesome.
Same what you said. It's a good gimmick. They go like here on the billboard, like an 8-time Guinness World Record holder, and it's a good sell that way.
Yeah. But you've got some that really have required
Yeah,
significant
yeah.
amount of time.
It was funny with Albert Lucas. Like he did the 13 rings and he did like 8 plates and stuff. And then I think he's a little, yeah, he recognized it too. And then they go like, oh, but this performer has 5 world records, and then he has 13 rings and 8 plates and a couple like, the most off. And then he goes like, yeah, but I have done the most rings. And they go, yeah, but this guy has like 5 world records, might like catching the most raisins in his mouth, but like he has 5. And then he gets a little pissed off with the agent. Like, so like Albert was like joking with a couple other people that have like so many juggling world records, but they're all like kind of made up world records, or forced. And he goes like, yeah, you have the most world records that you could buy, or like that your budget had to buy, like to pay Guinness World Records to get everything certified.
Yeah. And I mean, I get it. It's like there really is sort of a upper limit with some of these technical physical skills that we start to hit. And it's a huge tool in the performance world. So
and then
do what we need to do.
Yeah, and then too, like if maybe those credentials help you to get eyeballs onto your pro material, so then the booker can decide. And then if you slip through the crack, you're not good, but you slip through the crack that way, and you still get the booking. Then if you're not good on site, you don't get booked back. So
that's ultimately it, right? Are people having?
And then later on, if you didn't have those credentials, but you have a great show, it takes longer, but at the end, you're still going to get those jobs too. So.
So when you're performing, or I mean, just in general, do you have a training schedule that you hold to either keep yourself in shape or for learning new skills? How often do you put new things into your show?
Well, put new stuff in, that's very regularly, but it could be even like a tweak to a joke.
Sure.
So that's what with even Lance Burton, he did so many magic shows, and he was like, wow. But he's like, no, I was not doing the same show. I was like 1,000 times practicing for this ultimate show that I want to do. So that's how I look at it. So every show I try to walk away with something different, or one learning experience. But then put new routines. I'm working now on like this V prop, like with the ball bouncing. I think that's going to be cool. And then Madenas gave me the permission to do the piano bounce, so like I'm working on that. So that's going to go into the show pretty soon, especially now. Like I'm going to put like a lot of new stuff in, because with this new venue, it allows me stuff that I couldn't have done earlier. So but then let's do on the comedy barn. At one point my 12-minute set got very, very tight, and then like, okay, this works for this venue, so there was not so much room to grow, because then you can break up the system and then rework everything. And then if you're lucky, you end up with an act that was as tight with the one that you just gave up doing. So that it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So then I was good, because it changed venues. So now I need to go through that process again. Yeah. But also, like, it was interesting too, doing so many shows. I noticed, like, so that's what I want to make. I had this Dubai clubs, this one piece LED clubs, and then I started doing all the shows. So I got like a bit of a bone bruise right here, just from doing really fast triples with clubs that were too heavy.
Right.
And the same, like, if your angles, the way you throw the clubs is not 100% right. So you do so many shows, or you just practice so much, like any like little default in your technique can result into an injury. So then for a while, like, I was working very hard on my show by not practicing, because that bone bruise just need to heal, because if I just kept going, it just got worse. So that was the hardest thing, because it's so kind of intuitive that you actually progress by not practicing. And that was tough.
I think if there's anything that has come out of being in quarantine, that's one of the things that it's done for me, is actually let myself rest. Like, my elbow doesn't hurt anymore after hours and hours of juggling and performing and practicing. And
that's good.
Been able to recuperate a bit.
Albert Lucas is great with that stuff too. Like, he has some food supplements, so like that he just takes, and then he's like, okay, just ice it, and just little tricks that he's now sharing with me. So it's like, okay, if you do a club and it hits wrong, like, stop and just put his stuff on it, or just go home and put it in a bucket of ice water, like stuff that I didn't think of doing before.
Yeah.
But it's so important. The same like I was juggling 5 club back crosses, and then if you don't throw one not in the right angle, so it doesn't come and it lands in your hand like this, but it lands like here, then it's gonna hit this point real hard. You have one time, you just keep on going, and then that day, if it would have happened and would have iced immediately, then probably wouldn't be a problem. But then doing 12 shows a week, then never has time to heal. But now it's good again. But you have to be careful with that kind of stuff, especially the clubs, because if you get them wrong, they spin fast, they come pretty high. Yeah, it could hurt a lot.
Yeah. Do you have and so your practice schedule is pretty freeform? Do you do any cross training, any other kind of fitness training to keep yourself in shape for that level of intensity?
That's interesting because like for the training or the practice, it's also depending where I'm at. When I was doing 12 shows a week during the summer, there's very little energy left because I was at the theater from like 3 p.m. until 10:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And then walking onto the stage like 12 times a day or more. So then, but then like the actual stuff that's in my show was getting super tight. And then I just practiced maybe 20 minutes on top of it for the other stuff. And that was way good enough to do the show itself. But then you go, okay, I get really good at this show. But like, I feel like for me to feel like a juggler, I feel like the practice, if I have a great practice session where I know all the tricks and stuff, I feel more like a juggler than when I do it on stage. On stage, I just feel like a performer.
Mm-hmm.
And for the juggling, I feel like more like I like the athletics of it. And so 2 separate things. So then I was like, oh, I'm not really juggling as much, although I was doing it 6 days a week professionally. And now I can just practice. So now I'm training. So now I'm just more isolating the tricks that I want to learn. So one of the goals, like Albert wants to get me to 12 rings per flash. He said I could do it. I was like, okay. So right now we're just like half the practice sessions, or like instead of practice, he calls it training. And I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense because like with training, you're just working towards a goal and you're doing the exercises. With practice, for me, practice is more fun than training. Training is just, I need to do this exercise or need to isolate just like the release of the rings or the grip of the rings. And then it gets very intense. But then also, if you do this easier exercises, you notice actually that you get better with the trick. So I could even improve if the 10 rings, he's improving it for me just being in this apartment. He gives me exercises, how I can improve my 10 while sitting just in this one. I was like, dang, yeah, I wish I knew that kind of stuff when I was still doing the cruise ships, because I was sitting for days like waiting until it was like midnight and the passengers were finally off to bed so I could sneak into the theater and practice.
Right. So I want to ask this question that you just brought up about the rings and training in a space like you're at there, only maybe we can redirect it towards clubs. So club fest.
Clubs.
How would you practice your 7 clubs in a room like you're in now?
That might be more difficult because the clubs are very tricky.
Yeah.
Because you can only catch them that's like for basic stuff. You only catch them at one side. I know you have like grips and treads, but it's just for the basic technique or like old school stuff. Yeah, you just catch them by the handle. So like it's where the rings, like he has me sit in a chair and just work on my abs and just go through these motions. With clubs, it's a little bit more difficult because your legs are in the way when you sit on the chair, and with the rings you can have it between your knees or just outside of it. With the clubs, that'll be interesting. I will ask too, but I can imagine like just going. Actually, like just thinking about it, I probably could have improved it just by what I didn't get to with the angle. Like it took like a bone bruise right here to understand the importance of getting it with the right angle and bringing it in, and just having the end of the club too. Like when you catch it, it's pointing there. You bring it in, and then it's pointing right there. The stuff that is pretty logical when you think about it. But then it took when I translated the book from Alexander Kiss, If You're a Juggler. So he is just one of the great Russian jugglers, and he was a great teacher as well. So he wrote a book about juggling. It's about juggling technique, how to practice. He was the first one to do 5-club back crosses. So he tells the story how he created the trick 5-club back crosses. And if somebody else would have done it before, he didn't want to do it because he felt like he was copying. So it's like a real interesting way of thinking about juggling. And he explained the right technique for juggling clubs and the difference in tempo. So when you juggle 4 clubs or juggle 6 clubs, it's a different rhythm that you have.
Yeah.
And that's now with the rings. So like I wasn't aware of it because I was self-taught. But then Albert, he had Nick Gatto and his dad just teaching Anthony and Albert and stuff, like all the magic. So they had thought more about it, and they were working with, they from before with all the greats like Bobby May and Alexander Kiss and stuff. So they really thought about it as a sport.
Yeah.
And as another like activity. It's like it's no one like David Lucas, Albert Lucas, Anthony Gatto. They all could do more than 10 rings. It's like it's such a small pool, and they all can do it. And then it helped practice with Dick Franco too. And then Dick was like up to 10 rings. I'm like, yeah. So it's just unbelievable. So it's like, okay, the training methods they work, but like one of the things, yeah, with the rhythm and the tempo. So now I feel I have so much more control. Before it was like with 8 rings, they were controlling me, and and now I feel like, okay, I control it. And I already feel before I set up the pattern. I know already before if I'm going to catch it or not.
Right. Yeah. Once you release it, right?
Well, like no, even before I know the split second before I set it up, just the way it was my breathing and the way I stand. It's like it's sort of like boom, I know I'm going to catch it.
Right. So is there with this in mind, are there any specific tips that you might give to the first aspiring just juggler for leveling up their skills, separate from the aspiring performer who's looking to level up their performing game?
Yeah, it's probably that's a
something that
broad
stands out
because
to you.
there's so yeah, like let me think. Yeah, I would recommend reading Alexander Kiss' book about the right technique to juggle clubs with with your wrist and your elbow, and if you catch a club and it really hurts, then you can better stop and give it some rest because they can be pretty painful if you catch them incorrectly. It's also interesting with the clubs. Like I don't really have a right answer for it, but like there's so many different clubs on the market. And if you look at golf or something, for different shots, they have different sizes of clubs. This is for long shot. This is for close. It's like for juggling, for some reason, it doesn't matter if they practice 7 clubs, you practice 3 clubs. Or if you're a big person or if you're small, they go, this is the perfect club. It's like, well, if you look at playing golf, like the length of the club, so nobody has done any research onto it, right, that I know of. But you would think like that maybe a taller person is going to be better off with a longer club, or maybe that there must be some relevance to.
Yeah, we have ended up with a very specific shape, size, and weight that almost gets universally applied. There are some differences, like in some of because PX3 tends to make lighter and thinner clubs that are easier to hold in one hand, or easier to hold numerous clubs in one hand. But I almost don't know anybody that uses.
No, it was like Gil Yauer, like a Russian juggler. He had like a different set for 3 clubs than 4 when he did 7.
Yeah, which makes total sense.
If you think about it, it makes total sense for sure. But yeah, like what I know, like when I started juggling clubs, like I was drilling just single spins, double spins, triple spins, and just like the basics, like stuff that comes back in every juggling trick that you do. So I spent like maybe way more time on it than another juggler. But that also helps. You have a good stable basis with that, like especially if you want to show it off for me in a show, like then that's so solid. So that's a building block that I have, and then I can build more tricks and learn other tricks quicker because those basic throws that all those other tricks are made of, I've been really down very well.
Yeah, it sounds like we're of a similar mind. Those fundamentals, you can't skip the fundamentals. It makes learning everything else.
It's interesting too with other disciplines too. Like so, you have the beginner, you try just to get it. Then you have somebody who's more intermediate, and they're just trying all the different tricks. And then you have the super master, and he just goes back and practices the fundamentals again.
Right. That's right. Well, this is great. We're coming up on the last few minutes here. So I got a few rapid fire questions, if you'll indulge me.
Sure.
All right. So we've talked a little bit about clubs already, but is there a club trick that you are currently working on? Or if you're not, what was the last one that you really?
There's not a particular one. I spend a lot of time just like double chin, like one here and then one. And then 5 club back crosses. That's my favorite trick, favorite feel, and also, it's so cool how it looks. So
Yeah.
those I just keep doing because I really enjoy them.
Yeah. Are you tuned into the club, the more avant-garde club juggling and manipulation and flow arts style club juggling that's going on these days?
Not so much. Like I really like how it looks, but then it's also like difficult I think it's difficult for an audience to see the differences between all the different swings. So I was like, if I have a couple of those, then that look I've covered in my act. And then because I try to keep my shows as diverse as possible, so I did maybe one trick from that school, then an old school one, then one that looks more like swingy. So I really like it, but like since I do so many different juggling tricks and then all the business stuff, I've not spent as much time on it as I would like to because it's real cool.
Sure. Yeah. So it sounds like you just answered another question I was going to ask: is how do you choose what tricks to work on? It's the audience.
Yeah,
right?
mostly the things that what I do, like what I choose is what I enjoy doing. So that's what I work on, and then there's enough overlap what I like as what the audience likes to see. So
Yeah.
I think juggling is so difficult, and also as you do it as a job, you have to enjoy it. So that's the first selection criteria, that I enjoy it, and then from everything that I enjoy, because I enjoy more of it than people want to see, I just pick the selection that people want to see.
Yeah.
And that I enjoy.
All right. Now this isn't a loaded question, or maybe it is. Do you have a favorite prop? You don't have to say clubs.
It used to be clubs for so long until that heavy debate club gave me a bone bruise, and it took a long time to recover. So like, but now it's the shaker cups. Only
cool.
for the fact, my friend Freddie Canton. So he was one of the first one in Europe to do it, and then he passed it down to me. He shared me all the insights of the prop. He gave the insights to Claudius Pest. He told me about it. Then I used my mechanical engineering to get them custom built, and then I set the Guinness World Records with it. So like for those reasons, as an honor thing to my friend who is now old, and yeah, like for those reasons, it's my favorite prop now.
Nice. Is that another?
And I hated one of the most too, because it's so precise, and if this one is a little sticky and dirty,
right.
It's very easy to mess it up too. So it's I love it the most, but I really hate it too.
Is that another prop that we can find on your website?
No, some people actually ask like, hey, are they available? And the reason why they're not available, because they're so expensive to make. Like there was not a single person that was interested to even just cover my expenses, because polycarbonate is pretty expensive plastic.
Yeah.
Then they're made out of 2 layers of polycarbonate. So just the plastic expense that goes in, just pure material that I need to purchase for, is already like €30, like $30 per cup. That's just the plastic. Then you have the time on the machine. Then the guy that operates the machine, his hourly fee is like $50 an hour too. And then
just
the
to make a cup.
Yeah, so like literally, like to make 1 cup for me, it's like $100.
Wow.
To make 1 cup. So then all the time that I put in developing the thing. So even if I would, for pure the same cost, and with a couple of people, it's like, hey, I want to buy those cups, and they go, all right, we're good friends. Like I will do it for you. I will order. I will let you use my knowledge with it. I will use my builder. Expenses, but like it's still $1,000 for a set of 10. And they go, whoa. I was like, don't get upset at me. That's just how expensive it is. And it's like, I just give you at cost. But like that's the reason why it's not on my website, because nobody is interested. I'm just crazy now. I spent more money on developing my juggling cups than I spent on purchasing cars, period, in my entire life.
We'll call that a rapid fire question. Why not? How about a favorite juggling convention? Do you ever get to attend any these days?
No, but I really like the European festival because it's so big and so it's more like a festival. IJA I love as well.
Hmm. Yeah. If we've ever met in person, that might have been where it was.
Could be
Yeah. I don't remember that.
2006, 2008, and 2012. I was there.
2008.
Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh, no, that was not. Oh, no, we were there in 2009. It was
Okay.
Poetic Motion Machine. It was my early days. um, so, how about in regards to your travels? First place that comes to mind that you've traveled to that you really enjoyed, that you would go spend?
I really like Japan.
Japan, cool. And so this also brings me back. I don't want to forget. Where do you perform in Antarctica?
That was on a cruise ship, and the reason why I can say I performed in Antarctica, and most people cannot, even cruise ship performers, because we were 2 days in Antarctica. We were docked 1 day, and we were like in the territory, like in between two pieces of ice from Antarctica. So it was like in Antarctica territory. The ship was there. So at that night, if I would have 1 day later, I would not have performed in Antarctica. But that night, that ship was stopped in Antarctica in between things. That was my show. So
nice.
I was in territory from Antarctica, so I performed in Antarctica.
Right. So no helicopter in to perform for the researchers or something.
No, that was like it was on the ship, but it was in Antarctica.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. How about a juggler that you like to watch or have looked up to that stands out to you? It could be inspiration from either juggling or performing.
There's so many because I look at the qualities. Every juggler is different. Some is like great with comedy, not so much with technique. But like my favorite juggler, I think Dieter Tasso. And then the one I watched the most was Anthony Gatto because I watched his videotape like every day for 4 or 5 years straight.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good one to look up to.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great, Niels. Do you have any final stories or anything that you want to tell?
Not particularly. Like if any question, I can just keep on talking. Even the rapid fire questions, I made them way long. Yeah. But like, there's just so much. There's between like all those juggling books that I published in the last couple of years. Like I've read so much about juggling, and at one point you see how it all connects. Mm-hmm. And that juggler did that one, and that prop or that juggling club got. And then I go to David Kane's museum, and then you see all those props, and even like he has the first light club, and then you go. And then I was on a cruise ship, and I was doing the light balls, and so was like, "Oh, looks so modern. That's so new." And then Rudy Horn was in the audience. He was on the cruise ship as a passenger. So he just walked up. He's like, no. I did that juggling. I did the LED ball like 40 years ago. And nobody know that he was Rudy Horn. And it was true. And he did it in all the famous nightclubs all over the world. And they just like, who's this old crazy guy? Like bragging, like this kid was good. Like he's just trying to take away his, so there's so many stories.
That's great. Yeah, the whole light up juggling world is really, I think we've only just begun to see how it's going to transform juggling in general. I mean, for the first time, like you can juggle any time of day.
So cool.
No lighting requirements.
For corporate events, that's the best. So like you need to light juggling very well. Like I installed this 4 new lights into the theater, so I can see it. Like most people that book entertainment or when you juggle somewhere and people ask, like if you cannot see your juggling clubs, you're screwed. You're going to drop. But then light clubs, even if it's a good venue where you think it's going to be great, it's better, especially now with the floto and stuff, they feel exactly the same as your regular club. Mm-hmm. Bring the LED clubs, because everything that you can do with your regular clubs you can do with your light clubs too, so you can still do your normal routine, but then still turn them on, because if there's one light that catches your eyes, like at least you can see your prop.
Yeah, it removes shadows. It's perfect.
So yeah, it's so much better just to always just bring your light clubs. It's so much smarter.
Yeah. And just want to shout out real quick, in addition to the giveaway where you're going to be giving away 3 of the bottle clubs that you have made, Flow Toys will also be donating 3 vision
Cool.
clubs. So for all the folks watching out there, make sure to participate in the giveaway. It's really easy to enter. It's just a quick
I
little
will
video.
I will add another giveaway, like the book from Alexander Kiss that I mentioned.
Oh, cool.
I will add 3 copies of those, so you can give 3 different jugglers
Awesome.
a copy of that one. And for anybody else, that if you're on iTunes or on Apple, with I have it as an audiobook as well. I think you probably, if you have some subscription, you probably can get that one for free if you have a subscription with Amazon, I think. Otherwise, it's pretty affordable as an audiobook if you like to listen to that. And I will just donate 3 copies as well. So 3 people, I will send them
Beautiful. Well, that answers the question of what one of the most inspirational juggling books has been, for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, the book you give away. There it is.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great, Niels. Do you have any other places, any other resources you'd like to direct people to? I'm going to have your YouTube and your website in the comments below. Do you have an Instagram or anything like that you'd like to share too?
I do have that as well. So yeah, if you go to comedyjuggler.com, you can look up my Facebook, my YouTube, all that stuff. If you have a question about juggling, I mean, like this interview was mostly heavy on, the performing aspect of it, not so much the technical juggling side. So if people are interested, I'm happy to talk more technical club juggling, or do it together with Albert Lucas, or send me a question like about that, about bottle clubs or juggling sticks or something like that. Like it's all covered in those 14 juggling books that I published through ND Juggling, and there's a lot of good knowledge. One is it's interesting too. It's about club juggling as well. It's a manual from the Russian Circus School, and it was only available in Russian, and really good about technique. So that's the art of juggling, and that's on the website too. So,
great! You had it translated.
People have questions, I got it translated from Russian into English.
Nice.
So now it's finally available. So it's really cool. Like the same stuff, like Ignatov was practicing. All those legends, they came across that book when they were starting out.
Wow, that's great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been fantastic, and thanks everybody for tuning in. Niels, it's been really fun.
Thank you so much. Yeah, any questions, shoot me a message and I'm answering them gladly.
All right.